Every major organization in the world basically faces the exact same massive challenge: data. Seriously, how do you manage absolute mountains of it without completely drowning? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how companies store, organize, and leverage all that information to actually make smart, strategic business decisions. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the very real problem of data overload. Then we'll explore three primary solutions: the enterprise data warehouse, the data mart, and the virtual data warehouse. And finally, we'll compare them side by side so you can see exactly how these models stack up. Let's start right in with Section 1, the data overload problem. To really appreciate the solution, we first have to understand the sheer, everyday chaos of business operations. Imagine a massive e-commerce company. They're processing millions of transactions daily, right? Data is just flowing in from absolutely everywhere. Sales is tracking up to the second purchases, finance is managing tight budgets, HR is logging employee hours, inventory is watching warehouse stock, and marketing, they're monitoring millions of ad clicks. But here's the kicker, the major problem here. Every single one of these departments stores their data entirely independently. They are completely boxed in, stuck in their own little silos. Now put yourself in the CEO's shoes for a second. You urgently need answers to some major questions. And frankly, you need them 5 minutes ago. Which products sold the most? Which region generates maximum revenue? How have sales changed over the last 5 years? When you start asking those massive, historical, integrated questions, those scattered operational databases, they just buckle under the pressure. I mean, they're fantastic for day-to-day tasks, but they absolutely cannot see the big picture. They simply aren't built for deep, integrated analysis. And honestly, that is exactly why the data warehouse was invented. That perfectly sets up Section 2, the enterprise data warehouse. Consider this the absolute heavyweight champion of data models. An enterprise data warehouse, or EDW, is a comprehensive, centralized model that integrates information from every single department into one massive repository. So the crucial point to take away here is that it essentially acts like a bulldozer. It just flattens all those isolated department walls we just talked about, giving you one complete, consistent view of the entire organization. Let's see how this actually builds out in reality. Think back to that massive Amazon-style e-commerce giant. Step 1. You have all your separate operational databases: sales, HR, finance. Then in step 2, that data goes through what we call an ETL process. That stands for extract, transform, and load. Think of it like a giant funnel. It pulls all that raw, messy data, cleans it up, and pushes it right into step 3, the centralized enterprise data warehouse. Finally, that single source of truth feeds into step 4, pushing perfectly organized data straight to company-wide dashboards. And because everything is finally unified, the management team can actually sit back and view massive company-wide KPIs, key performance indicators. They can instantly see total revenue, customer growth, product performance, and regional sales all side by side. They're finally making strategic decisions based on everything happening all at once, rather than just fumbling around in the dark trying to piece together scattered reports. So to sum up the EDW, the defining features are its massive enterprise-wide scope, its highly integrated centralized architecture, its ability to store deep historical data, and its laser focus on high-level strategic decision-making. Now, it's incredibly powerful, for sure, but as you might guess, building a massive centralized hub for an entire organization, that takes a lot of time and a truly massive budget. Which brings us to our next option. Moving on to Section 3, the data mart model. If the enterprise data warehouse is a giant wholesale superstore, think of this next model as a highly specialized boutique. A data mart is really just a smaller version of a data warehouse, but it's designed strictly for a specific department or a single business function. Instead of taking on the Herculean task of storing information for the entire organization all at once, a data mart downsizes the whole concept. It stores only what one specific team needs to do their job and absolutely nothing more. Let's ground this in a real-world example most of us know pretty well: a university campus. Rather than building one massive enterprise system, a university might just set up separate branches. So a faculty member opens their dashboard and connects only to the student department data mart. The finance officer logs into the finance data mart. The placement officer opens the placement cell data mart. You get the idea. Everyone gets a highly tailored, isolated dashboard that gives them exactly what they need without all the clutter of the rest of the university's data. I mean, the finance officer doesn't care about the library's overdue book logs. They just need their specific financial data. And this brilliantly illustrates why they're so popular. Because of this highly focused approach, data marts offer incredibly fast performance. They're dealing with significantly less data, right? Plus, they're low cost and incredibly easy to implement compared to a full enterprise setup. They give teams amazing agility by being highly department specific, letting them pivot and analyze without having to wait in line for corporate IT to help them out. But hey, what if you want a unified view, but you really don't want to build a massive physical repository at all? That brings us to section 4, the virtual data warehouse. This is the agile modern connector. The real secret to the virtual data warehouse is actually right there in the second half of its name. It provides a unified view of data directly from operational systems without physically storing all the information in one centralized location. There is no giant hard drive in the sky copying all the data over. Instead, it's just a connecting virtual layer that lets you look at existing databases simultaneously. Let's bring this to life with a hospital information system, because this is a perfect scenario for it. You have completely separate databases for patients, the laboratory, and billing. In a virtual model, a connecting layer sits right on top of those separate systems. So when a doctor opens their tablet in the chaotic emergency room, they see a unified doctor dashboard. That dashboard instantly reaches out, grabs the latest lab results, pulls the patient's medical history, and grabs insurance info, displaying it all at once in real time. So why does this matter so much? Well, think about it. When a doctor is treating a patient in an emergency, they can't exactly wait for a centralized warehouse to sync overnight, right? They need real-time access immediately. Because a virtual data warehouse doesn't require massive, centralized physical storage, it boasts incredibly low costs and minimal storage requirements. It also offers impressively quick deployment. It is all about speed, connection, and getting exactly what you need in the exact moment you need it. All right, we have covered a lot of ground here. So let's bring it all together in section 5, comparing warehouse models. Let's synthesize everything we've learned and put these architectures side by side. Now, what's really interesting here is how clear the trade-offs become. Let's look at the scope first. The enterprise model takes on the entire organization. It leaves no stone unturned. The data mart is strictly department-focused, keeping things local. And the virtual model provides a unified view without actually moving any data around at all. Naturally, because of those scopes, the cost and implementation times differ wildly. The enterprise data warehouse demands a high budget and a very long implementation time, sometimes taking years. Data marts are low cost and take a short time to set up. Virtual data warehouses, also low cost with very short implementation times, getting you up and running super fast. But here is the real kicker: historical data. If you want deep, long-term trend analysis spanning decades, the enterprise model is really your only true definitive choice. Data marts and virtual data warehouses are highly limited there. And finally, performance. Enterprise and data marts are excellent because the data is specifically structured for analysis beforehand. Virtual data warehouses are moderate simply because they have to do the heavy lifting of pulling data live from operational databases on the fly. So if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, I want you to lock these 3 distinct categories into your memory right now. Enterprise equals massive organization-wide integration. Data mart equals fast, department-specific agility. And virtual equals a unified view without the heavy burden of central physical storage. I want to leave you with this to ponder. Based on your scale, your budget, and whether your team needs deep historical analysis or instant real-time data, which model is the right fit for your organization? Think about your own workplace or university. Are you pulling from a small, isolated data mart, or are you tapping into a massive enterprise data warehouse? Because once you understand these underlying architectures, it completely changes the way you look at the data around you. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this today. Keep learning and keep analyzing.